If reposted.
You know, there were all sorts of quotes from Olaf that I was going to go with from the Frozen movies, Andrew, but I decided to go with the wisdom of Elsa from Frozen 1. Cold never bothered me anyway. Oh, yeah, taste it, Andrew Kill. So great. So great. All right. Everything bothers you if you let it. Remember, you have a choice. So I remember me and my wife went to marriage counseling early on, and the counselor was like, your wife will never determine how you feel or how you think. You'll determine how you think. You determine if your feelings get hurt. You determine if the Bart wind bothers you or if flies tick you off on a camping trip. You always have the choice to determine how you feel.
Right. I feel like it's a lot of manifestation. Like a lot, you could say you can view things as they're going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you go in and say, this is going to be a terrible party, I'm not going to meet anybody I like, and you're probably going to be right. And so like, if you go out into the cold and you're like, it's going to be fine, I'm not cold. Like you have this way of mentally being able to propel yourself to feel better. And I think that's a good reminder on like you control how you react to something.
And there's all sorts of, I actually Googled that, there's all sorts of technical research that says how you perceive an event will be how the event goes. Like you can almost talk your brain into determining how the event will go.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen any of this with like your kids when you're having them try new meals? Like, ooh, it looks gross, I'm going to hate it. Like, is there a trick to getting kids to eat stuff?
My green meal went over like a turd in a punch bowl. It didn't go over really well. I think it's different. Kids have it's just a different sort of mentality about things.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it's the same for kids, but certainly it's partially true that, yeah, when they're like, oh, this is going to be an awful event, then they didn't. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be an awful event.
Yeah. And it also makes me think of like people I used to work with. Like there's one guy I can particularly remember the very first day I met him. He had worked at the company for 3 years. And we got to lunch. It was like a welcome. He's like, man, this place is rough. I'm going to quit. He still works there. That was 10 years ago. He still works there. And it was like just seeing him was kind of a downer. And he chose to have a bad day every day. And just, I don't know, you walk in and you say, life is beautiful. I mean, you can't always trick yourself, but like if you try to lead with that, you can sometimes trick yourself into having a good time.
Also, too, is a part of this, I think, is like sort of taking responsibility for whatever's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're in a business meeting or something like that, taking responsibility for some of your shortcomings. Like a lot of times, like let's say you get in an argument with someone, or even more of a worse example is you're out at a restaurant with a waitress who's kind of snippy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Maybe she just found out her kid has cancer, right? And it kind of ruins your whole meal. Well,
Mm-hmm.
it ruins your meal in your perception of it. Like you just have to take responsibility for the space you're at, and then you could kind of handle other people's stuff.
Yeah. Last week I had to call Apple support and I was on the phone
Uh-oh.
for 45 minutes with this guy who didn't know what he was doing. He was like chatting. He was online chatting with his boss and she was telling him what to tell me. And after 45 minutes, I was like, can I just talk to your boss? And he connected me to her. We got fixed in 5 minutes. And I wasted an hour of my day when I was trying to do a lot of stuff. And normally I don't do this, but I was like, you know what? If I'm mad at him, his day isn't going to be worse. It's only going to weigh me down. And so in that moment, I made the choice. I was like, I'm going to move on. And it's just a perspective on like how you approach stuff. I really like how you said at the beginning that your therapist is like, your wife can't control how you think. Like if you're mad at her and you stew, like that's only going to make you upset.
And he went on to say this about marriage. We were married. Yeah, this is kind of where we're going through our post-marriage counseling. It's like, if you think you're going to get married to become happy, you are sorely mistaken. Make yourself happy and just enjoy the time you get to spend with Karen the rest of your life. Like, that's it. Like, she doesn't determine anything. You do. And then your marriage is sort of the byproduct of how you determine things will go.
Yeah. I knew this girl recently after college. We were probably in our mid-20s. She was dating this guy. It wasn't going very well. And they're like, you know what? We should get married. And so they were engaged and we're like, what are you doing? Like, you aren't happy. She's like, it's going to make it better. And we're like, okay. And then she goes, well, if that doesn't work, maybe in a year or two, we'll have kids and then it'll be fine. I was like, that's the exact opposite of this quote.
It's
Don't-
like I think she was saying like pour fire on me. Pour gasoline on me. My fire will go out.
Yeah. So I don't know. I can think of countless examples of me going into something and saying, "Oh, this is going to be rough." The first networking event I ever went to, I was so nervous because I was young and I was going to be quote networking with all these guys who were 20 years older than me, and I'm like, I got my hand ready for my business card. I'm like, "Hi, I'm Andrew," and hand him a card, and it was very awkward. And I manifested or I mentally spun myself into that not being a good event versus just being relaxed. And sometimes you can't relax, but relaxing and having a positive attitude goes a long way.
I hate to bring this back and take it full circle, but let's take it back to Elsa, if you don't mind, Andrew. I didn't really even think of it this way. I thought she had sort of a lonely existence. She was the winter queen.
Mm-hmm.
She was on a frozen lake. She had to be on the mountain and be away from everybody. But guess what? The cold never bothered her anyway. She liked the cold. She liked the cold.
So are you planning on moving to the Arctic Circle? Is that the takeaway?
I really don't like flies on. I hate flies on when I go camping.
Right.
And like we were recently camping. The flies were bothering, like landing on my legs, and I was like, "How can I take responsibility for my own actions and not to let the flies bother me?" And they still bother me. There was nothing I could do.
So maybe you didn't live in the cold, so the flies can't live.
That's it. Maybe I should join Elsa.
If you lost your fly swatter, please reach out. You can find us at Reposted Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I'm Andrew Keller for Cartoon Dog saying thanks for stopping by.